Welcome, Joe Pino, to Behind the Tab. So glad that you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're really excited to have our discussion today.
Yeah, all right. So, because I'm deeply fascinated in how businesses start, can you give us a little background on Clutch and how you got started and also on yourself?
Sure. So Clutch as an organization's been around, I guess at this point, north of a decade, maybe closer to 15 plus years. We've been around in sort of different origin stories, and our owner and actually our co-owners and founders actually uh, started off in a mobile app perspective. They actually were one of the first developers of truly that all-in-one mobile digital wallet. Hence the name Clutch. It wasn't just a
Oh,
cool
interesting.
name. It was actually like the digital clutch, or like a woman's clutch, right, in their wallet. So that's where they started. That was their vision. I think they went out to the market kind of well before their time to try to sell it, and realized that there was actually a bigger challenge that a lot of their target audience was trying to solve for, which actually brought them to look and merge their idea into a bigger conversation with some other platforms around um, gift card and loyalty processing. So again, started off in this idea of digital wallet, and then ended up expanding into more of a gift card loyalty platform 15 years ago. And then since it's sort of evolved, right? What does a gift card and loyalty platform from 15 years ago look like today? That's been sort of the interesting, years of evolution of who Clutch is, um, and sort of different companies coming together over time. I myself have been here, I would say, just over 10 years. So I guess I was pretty early on when we officially became Clutch. Uh, Before that, I was actually working in finance and banking. Um, I I was really interested in what Clutch was doing, and actually had made a lot of had a lot of conversations and connections with one of their co-founders, and sort of liked the vision they had. And I actually, what was actually interesting, what brought me to them and even put me out in the market, so to speak, looking for a new role, was a challenge that I came across as an individual. Having a having a gift card in my pocket for a long time, I was looking for a way to to get to actually get rid of it. So there was just a challenge I had, that I was interested in trying to find a technology or software that could help us solve a sort of a problem I had. So it was interesting. It's worked out, and I've been here for a while now, and again continued to get excited about not just where we've been, but where we're going. So again, long-winded story, but
Yeah.
definitely been a little while.
No, so you're based in outside Philly. Where is the company located?
Yeah, pretty much the same. We're right outside of Philadelphia. Main corporate office would be Ambler, Pennsylvania. So we're all sort of in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Oh, very nice. So I will just tell your owners they have a great name. It's memorable. It's one syllable. I don't know that there are many domains out there like that anymore. So hats off to them. And
Yes, yes.
and before we move on, can you describe what Clutch is? Because I don't want to assume people know.
Yeah, no, great. So Clutch ultimately is a marketing and loyalty platform at the heart of it. So we help businesses better identify, understand, and truly motivate their customers and guests. So really, our focus is helping brands better understand and retain their customers. So that is at its simplest form what we as a platform offer, and then certainly always more to unpack there. But that is ultimately at the heart of what we do, is deliver a platform that brands can use to manage their guests.
Nice. And then our relationship, GoTab and Clutch is in hospitality. Are you only in hospitality or are you in other verticals?
We are absolutely in other verticals. We work with brands from specialty retail, apparel, grocery, convenience. We're even actually even in healthcare, right? All with the idea that all of these different brands, verticals, really have the same challenge, right? Better understand who their customers are, and then of course better understand how to market and manage those customers to continue to come back. So same platform, but we actually take all of these best practices and intelligence cross vertical, which has been really interesting to see. Certainly, uh, from restaurants to retail, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's nice that you have that perspective. So, like moving into hospitality specifically, um, the whole focus is on traffic, traffic, traffic. Like, do we have butts and seats? Do we have the right butts and
Mhm.
seats? What do you think has changed the most about, the focus on getting them to come back versus just filling the seats?
Yeah, I mean it continues to be a challenge, right? Because guests and customers these days are communicated to in so many different ways. So there's a lot more competition for their attention. So there's being more meaningful when you do communicate to your guests, being more intentional as well, right? The idea that you only have limited space in their wallet or even in their mind, so you have to be really intentional, is really key. But there's a lot of competition beyond just communication, of course, is the channels, the experience, right? Um, you know, what we find is you're not always just competing on price. It's so much more than that. So there's a lot of pieces that go into a customer ultimately making a decision that they want to come back to you. So again, competition continues to be fierce, and there's a lot of different components that need to work in concert together to make it a good experience. And we realize that. So we realize we're just one piece of a bigger solution to ultimately help restaurants continue to bring their guests back in a predictable way, right? So again, you could answer and better understand what to expect on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in B2B marketing for many, many years, and it's almost like the conversation is really evolving. I've never said this before, but it just occurs to me that what you're talking about is very similar to the challenge in B2B about relevance and getting in a buyer's head. It's just so difficult. And then once you're there, saying the right things to get them to take that next action. So I could see how just it's a really nice kind of lens to look through at how that level of complexity is just increasing and increasing and increasing for marketers, regardless of who you're trying to reach. So then thinking about, most marketers think about hospitality marketers think about loyalty and points. But tell me, like, should they be thinking more than just loyalty and points when they're talking about their marketing outreach and customer acquisition and kind of retention?
100%. Loyalty and points certainly, and discounts certainly a part of an overall strategy, but not the strategy, right? When we think about loyalty and we talk to brands on a regular basis, there is the conversation that always happens that needs to expand what truly is loyalty, right? Loyalty isn't a program. It's about managing a guest, managing their experience, better communications, better targeting, and really get to a point where when you do give somebody an offer, it's intentional, right? Some of your guests will prefer points. They like that concept. They like targeted discounts, but or in some cases, your best offer may not be an offer at all, right? If you communicate correctly in a right way, you could just give the guest the right nudge or reminder of that last meal that they really enjoyed, and that alone could bring them back. So knowing when to do that is key, and we know that's difficult, right? If you as a marketer or an operator have to make a decision every time to decide whether or not they get double points or 10% discount or choose to send them nothing,
Hmm.
it's not scalable. So that's where again from a platform we help out, but really is the idea that it's not one size fits all, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Programs nowadays and loyalty, there's usually it's the bare minimum. You set up a baseline offering of promotion that guests understand, right? Because it really is a data trade off, right? I want to know who you are, and in turn of knowing who you are, I'm going to give you something without being too rich. The idea is you now start to build your database, and that goes from the offline to online behaviors that you could leverage to ultimately impact an increase in your revenue while decreasing your costs, right? Ultimately, loyalty should be a revenue center, not a cost center. So if you
Hmm.
are just thinking of it as just points and discounts, and that's the only way you approach it, then again, there's opportunities for us to help you kind of change your mindset there. Because ultimately, this should be a revenue driver, and really, whether it's points, discounts, or others, those are just tools in your toolbox that you could leverage to drive the right outcome. So certainly should not just be looked at as a discount or or points as being what loyalty is.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. And I know, like the going into the next question about, operators have so much data, and just in terms of what they're collecting. Um, where do you see the biggest gaps in what they're collecting versus what they're actually using? And it kind of is a really nice segue from what you just talked about. It's not just loyalty. Loyalty is not just points and discounts. It's also like how you're engaging with them to kind of create that relationship.
Yeah, there's definitely more data than ever before, and really the reason for that is digital channels, right? If you think back to this, is probably really was accelerated with COVID, right, where online ordering became more prevalent. So digital channels, the introduction of that, the adoption of it has really given operators the opportunity to gather and capture a lot more data, right? Who's the guest? What are they buying? Um, what are their preferred discounts? Because you could see all that information, but just because you collect the data doesn't mean you're utilizing it, right? And really, so data collection is fantastic. Data activation is better. So I think that's the key component to this. Really, is what are you doing with that information? Whether, and by the way, whether it's a loyalty member or non-loyalty member, the fact that you have that guest data, it's vital information that you could unlock. But it's not easy to unlock it, right? There's a lot of different tools out there, and they all do different components of maybe getting you closer to insights. But even with insights, still comes action. And how fast can you go from data collection to activation and continue to optimize that is really the challenge that we see brands and operators, marketers have. And that's the problem that we look to address is getting the data activation and closer to the data collection. And really, this is where, again, from our platform and our connectivity to GoTab, we close the loop in milliseconds. We see data activation in terms of, data capture. We could activate it and we could track it from start to finish, and optimize over time as you get into what is the next best outcome for your guests, right? Some of your guests, um, loyalty or not loyalty, some of your best guests uh, don't just visit you every day. And I kind of always jokingly said this is that your best guest doesn't come in every single day. So stop trying to get them to come in every day, right? It's, just if you were to take all of the technology out of this and just have a conversation with your best friend, they came in and visit you, they stopped by your restaurant, they had a sandwich, left. Your very next interaction with your friend wouldn't be when you coming back, right? It would be how was your experience? What did you like? What did you not like? You would have a relationship with them before you just decided to throw them a 10% coupon and say, can't wait to see you again. So with restaurants and hospitality, we don't want to see that go away, right? That the human interaction, the human touch that comes with this, right? Guests coming to your restaurant, sitting down and spending time with you, it's a very personal thing, right? It's not the same as just buying a shirt and leaving. You're sitting down and spending time. So we like to see that same mentality brought in a scalable way to the guest experience, and with the idea that with any of this data and activation comes back to is there value trade-off where the guest is having a better experience, but then you as a market and operator is also staying true to your business while also, of course, driving more value over time. So it all should come down to, are you making it easy for your guests to be your guests and come back, right? Removing the friction from the experience that may happen in between visits.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this before, so I'd love to kind of get into maybe a good example of what that might look like. I know I told you the story about, I think it's season 52 and the flatbread. I won't go into it, but maybe do you have an example similar to that where it's like, okay, because I love this analogy, you wouldn't immediately say, when are you coming back? That's like irritating.
Right.
So give us an example of what's the ideal, and I know it's different for every business, but give me some ideas of what the ideal customer life cycle would be for me just walking into a restaurant today and having my first experience.
Yeah, you as a guest, as a first time walk into a restaurant, like anything, right? You want to understand what the environment's going to be like. What's on the menu that's different, right? What should I try to truly understand what your business and your offerings about? So that first visit should be about what you offer, right? What's on the menu, and should and truly has to be a good experience, right? Someone walks in the door for the first time, you're not going to immediately say join our loyalty program and enjoy an instant discount. Again, you don't want it to be overly transactional,
Yeah.
but you deliver that experience, and as they come in for the first time, certainly loyalty marketing becomes a component of that, where you make it easy for them to sign up. Hey, there's great benefits. Hope if you if you enjoyed the visit, give us a chance to come back. So the ability for them to join and identify in the future shouldn't be made easy. Absolutely, right. And whether that's as simple as a text messaging program that you enable while they're waiting to be seated, or after they sit down waiting for their drinks or their appetizers come out, make it easy to join, right? With the idea that maybe there's an immediate benefit. Hey, your first time guest, enjoy something on us. Um, Always that trade off. I definitely think that could be a part of that experience. Um, and then perhaps even by the time they're done their meal or after they're done their meal, the first message isn't about um, come back, but how was your experience, right? Whether it's an NPS survey or other types of surveys that you could send out just to capture some feedback. What was your experience? Likely to come back again. And if they do, great. Right? Can't wait to see you. Next time, make sure to try our dessert. Right? You know what they purchased, so you know what they haven't done. Right? And if there's a few different items on your menu that you would stand behind, take in consideration what they've tried with kind of some other things that they haven't yet. Um, these could just be some simple wins, and then certainly, as time goes on, reaching out to them to see about them coming back does make sense eventually. Obviously, I'm not saying as a marketer, it's not about reaching out and trying to get them to come back, but it's just about how you do it in a meaningful way without inundating. But I would say that that first visit, as you can imagine, is going to be very critical on showing them what the brand's about, giving them an opportunity to sign up or join whatever your program is, and then having a very intentional conversation with them after that visit. Right, those first few days are going to be meaningful. You're never going to want to be at a point where they sign up for something and then there's radio silence. So you do want to have the appropriate touch points in place, and the scale those communications along the way across your email and text. So certainly map together a full journey. This is something that we definitely do on a regular basis. But again, very intentional, as you can imagine, and it doesn't have to be overly technical.
And overly technical, overly aggressive, and then to the point about the discounts and the discount fatigue. It doesn't always have to be giving something away. Because I tell you, that place that I went to, they didn't have to offer me a discount. All they had to do was show me a picture of the food that I ate, and I really loved it, and I wanted to come back.
Sure. I mean, you think about that. I'm every restaurant owner I know, it takes pride in certain parts of their menu, right? And so if I'm coming in for the very first time, there's probably things you want to make sure I leave with, right? And make sure when I try something I'm going to miss later on. And everyone knows what that is, and if they don't, that's also becomes really interesting over time. Hey, what are my best guests doing? So if you do have a loyalty program and
Mhm.
you see what those guests coming back time over time, you could go back and identify what is the key component of that. What is one or two or three or four items that they tend to be on the menu or be on that they're ordering in that first visit that's leading them to come back, right? Because that starts to inform future conversations as well, right? If a guest is going to come in for the first time after they join the loyalty program, what would be the first meal you'd want them to have? Because based off of other information, that's going to be your best foot forward, and guests that enjoy that type of meal tend to come back and give you a second try, right? And really, that's all you could hope from a first visit, is that they give you a second visit, right? And from a second visit, they give you a third visit. So there's a lot that goes into that, but it is very manageable.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's another place. I live in Loudoun County in Virginia. There's another place that I just found about 3 months ago. And it's interesting because the food was great. The seating was awesome. I like nice seats, like really comfortable. The service was amazing. The acoustics were great. I've never had them reach out to me for any reason. I've been there like 4 times. They've never offered me to sign up for anything. And I would do it because now I'm really like, okay, this is my spot because there's a lot of spots around here that I don't
Sure.
have any of those components. So it's really interesting about the missed opportunity from that first visit. It was a great meal. We tipped well. With a platform integrated like with GoTab, they'll know that. They know that we spent a lot of money. We had alcohol. We tipped well. They know all that about us. I'm amazed that there is no effort to try to get us to come back.
It, it's interesting for a few different reasons. We've definitely seen fast growing restaurants really well, restaurants that really do well, right? And they feel like, oh, we don't need a program, we don't need loyalty. And a lot of that is because they believe loyalty is points and discounts, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like they're actually just getting guests to come back for the wrong reason. But that isn't that really isn't what loyalty is about, right? It is about uh, better understanding who your guests are. And hey, if they're coming back in, as we mentioned before, they don't need offers and promotions. Fantastic. But having those lines of communications and the ability to communicate is always going to be a value and sort of and it's always going to be precious information to have.
Yeah.
Because on the other hand, we've seen a lot of brands, unfortunately, who aren't doing well, then decide they need a loyalty program, right? Hey, things are
Hmm.
going down. When I was first opening up 2 years ago, brand new restaurant in town, everyone was at our door. Things have slowed
Hmm.
down. We think we need to make a different approach, and now we need a loyalty program, right? So now we want to go and get customers signed up. So we it's always much easier to make those decisions early on when you're doing really well. Let's leverage all the goodwill and get customers into a whether it's a program or just lines of communication open, right? And that's the key component is how do I speak to my guests when I want to? And if you're not collecting the information, you'll never be able to. And then suddenly things aren't going well, and it's like, well, now it's time. So sometimes it becomes a last ditch effort, which really isn't what it's intended to, right?
Yeah.
Marketing and loyalty, and again, if you just take the word loyalty out of it, it's just about communication, that relevant or otherwise, even as simple as, hey, here's all the great things happening. We haven't seen you in a while. Just wanted to keep you up to date, right? It could be a simple touch point without promising anything. But again, with all of this comes the idea that you can measure and track it and understand it. You're a great customer without being an email, without being an SMS, without being in loyalty. But how do they know that, right?
Yeah.
They're banking on their laurels, which again, a lot of brands do. So I don't want to say one's bad worse off than other, but we see it as regardless if you're doing well or not, you need to have a relationship with your guests. Period. And a platform like us just truly allows you to scale that beyond personal relationships. Right? There's only so many people that you can interact with on a daily basis. So you go beyond that, and again, it does become something gets valued over time, which I always go back to. It doesn't have to be an overly promised discount focused program. In fact, that's the opposite of what we talk about when we work with brands.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's another restaurant, a little Mexican joint opened up last year, last fall. Love it. We love the food. The food was very inexpensive for our area. The very first visit, they offered us to join their loyalty program, and they gave us points every time we came. And so every time we came, we get a discount. Well, we like the food. I'm literally driving like 25 minutes to get there. I don't know how many restaurants I'm passing in order to get there. There's no reason for them to give me a discount or loyalty points at all. Just
Hmm.
remind me that you're here. All right, so I know we're running short on time. I'm going to jump into the reason why we're partnered. So we have a mutual customer, 50/50 group, and I'm just curious about what stood out to you about how they're thinking about guest data and retention across the different concepts that they have.
Yeah, no, 50/50 has been a really great team to work with. Their team over there definitely thinks differently, and I think what 50/50 group does that's pretty interesting is they are managing multiple concepts under one roof, right? So the idea between our mutual platforms is 50/50 is going from fast casual to table service type concepts and tracking that guest who may be truly loyal to one of their concepts and never visited other concepts, or somebody that has gone across all their concepts and they know who that guest is. They communicate to them as needed, and it's been really interesting to see that. And at the same time, running different strategies, right? Kind of going back to what we're talking about, it's you're not going to just give just you're not going to just give everyone points and discounts. It's a very intentional strategy as they look at how to managing their guests differently who visit some of their pizza shops, right? Differently than again their table service, and they realize the experience is different. They have different tones and messaging across the board, and it's really unique to see. And certainly, the fact that they're able to manage it and are managing it from one environment and one platform with you is really, I guess, really interesting to see. Because again, it's a great case study in the fact that the flexibility, but also in the fact that regardless of the type of concept you're running, this program and the ability to manage your guests works. And but also being mindful that it's different, right? If you're running any sort of marketing, it has to speak to who you are as a brand. And as you can imagine, each of these concepts he's operating or the GOAT 50/50 team is operating is different, right? Because the guest doesn't know there's a relationship between these different concepts, and in their marketing, they're they're open with that, right? The fact that each is truly separate from one another.
So you help them orchestrate that whole personalization and customization of the messaging per brand, per platform. Talk about like what you because this isn't a demo, but kind of talk about what that would look like if I'm running all those different brands and concepts.
Sure. So with them, they're managing different menus and items, as you can imagine. They're running different strategies. Some where they're trying to drive frequency, a frequency approach into some of their concepts. Another concept they're running spend, right? Some of their guests visit very often, as you can imagine, at a pizza place, for example, but only occasionally at some of their fine dining. So what's interesting is they have that single view of that guest, so they know that guest behavior across four or five concepts, but while still treating them unique. So in the platform itself, it is as simple as creating a few business rules and logic around treating each of their concepts differently, right? What they're earning or what they're redeeming, but still also understanding the type of offer that guest um, is motivated by, right? And also realizing that they're motivated differently when they do go get their pizza versus when they go get fine dining. So all of those types of insights that and actionability actually is complemented with not just their business rules, but as we get into it a little later on some of the AI we're introducing, right? Because all of these ideas and signals that we're capturing, again, it's hard to action off as an individual. So we scale out through technology, as you can imagine, to automate that next touch and knowing when they need the discount for the pizza versus just remind them of some of the specials that are on the menu for the upcoming week for some of their fine dining.
Yeah, so now let's jump into AI. You can't have a marketing conversation without it anymore, or even a business conversation without it. Can you talk about how Clutch, like your philosophy around AI and how it's being used in the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. We're still developing a lot to it, and as you can imagine, it tends to be a big focus of where we're going. But conceptually, what we're doing with AI really is first and foremost. There's a few different levels of it. Um, Similar to like self-driving cars, we realize not everyone's ready to take their hands off the steering wheel. So at first, sort of our first approach to AI is bringing insights and intelligence that the marketing or operator can decide against, right? So we start with recommendations. So our AI can help identify opportunities and then present those opportunities in a form of recommendation that says, here's the type of campaign you should run, here's why, and it'll give you a breakdown of the details, right? So it starts to bring to you a weekly summary of recommendations on how to take advantage of the behavior of your guests, complemented with, of course, any goals that you have in mind. So that's the first level. The next level gets into automation. So now not only does it bring you the recommendation, but then start to automate it. So again, less configuration, less management of marketing, and more of again allowing the AI to take that off your plate. And then we are working towards truly autonomous, where you could set guardrails and let the AI run your full marketing calendar. So we are working across all three, realizing again, there's different marketers and operators that are going to adopt AI differently. But really, the main approach is AI has to make your life easier, right? It has to make it more easier, more effective, and be a time saving. So we're being very intentional with, of course, bringing AI into the platform. But what's really nice in the way our platform is built in general is because it's the end-to-end platform, meaning our platform has a CDP built in with offers, built in with communications. We're already a closed loop network. So customers identify, we track their spend behavior, we could automate offers and communication. We're fully closed loop. So really the way we're seeing AI sit on top of that is A, it can help you make decisions, or B, it can actually help you configure the rules. Um, but again, we're going to roll out all three types of options and work very closely as we continue to see how AI is adopted. But again,
Yeah.
being very intentional on how to make it more effective for our users.
Now, are you seeing a difference in tolerance across your different verticals, or is it pretty consistent across all of them?
I would say definitely. I don't know if I would say I guess initially it's pretty consistent, right? That everyone's interested and intrigued of what it really means, right? Because a lot of technology vendors and they're all using the word AI. So there's definitely a bit of skepticism in what is it really going to do and what does it really mean. So we're definitely seeing everyone intrigued and wanting to know what we're doing with AI, but at the same time, when it comes to using it, they've been again skeptical. So
Yeah.
this is where we like to focus on still putting the human in the middle of the decisions. So again, you're no one's just taking their hands off the wheel and letting the car drive yet, and we expect that to be the case for a little while. But baby steps, right? We'll little by little add in AI where it efficiencies can be gained, and then over time, we think just like in general, again, even outside of our platform, just how us as a society get to a point where we trust AI a bit more and what you're willing to allow it to do and not do. So time will tell, as it's definitely going to continue to come here and come faster as time goes by.
Yeah, yeah. So then, just curious, are you generally do you deploy through an app, or your operators using a desktop in order to manipulate this information and run their programs? Talk to us about how people would actually use Clutch.
Yeah, so Clutch ultimately we sit behind the scenes of systems like GoTab, right? Ultimately, we depend on brands like or systems like GoTab to collect and complete transactions, right? Behind the scenes is where we sit, and ultimately the user of our platform is the operator or marketing team. So ultimately, we give them a workspace, right? A web hosted um, website that they log into and manage everything that we're talking about. So it is it is I guess it's mobile friendly, but I'd imagine most brands sit down and do this from a desktop or a laptop
Yeah.
to ultimately operate and manage their marketing. But yeah, I mean, behind the scenes is where ultimately our environment lives. So you can manage the right offer at the right time, decide if an offer is automatically redeemed or if it is a choice-based option. So these choices then surface itself into the guest experience, right? What happens when they go through their mobile app, their online ordering, or if they go through the point of sale with a waiter or waitress. So marketers sit behind the scene orchestrating the guest experience using our platform.
Nice. And then, so I know we are a few more minutes. We always like to end with the 30-day challenge. And
Okay.
I started with the 30-day challenge for hospitality marketers about what they can do differently to improve their performance. But you had a completely different angle on it, which I think is better.
Yeah, I'm always interested. Kind of what we just talked about before is 30-day challenge. My head immediately goes to what is the experience of your guest in their first 30 days. So we talked a bit briefly of I come in, a first time guest comes into your restaurant. What is their experience? Put yourself in their shoes and really just walk through it, right? Are they having a great experience? And if they are, fantastic. When they walk out the door, do you know if they're coming back, right? And really, what I'm asking and challenging operators to think about is, do I know who they are? Am I capturing any insight? Am I building a relationship with that guest? And if so, great. What could you always do better? Because now that they've left, what does the next 5, 7 days look like? And then obviously expand it 30 days. I'd also ask really out loud is if you are running loyalty, if you do have a database of guests, are you getting from it what you need? And can you answer questions like, is my guest coming back, right? Or what percentage of my customers won't be coming back in the next 30 days? So there's a lot of questions that I would challenge brands to really think about. And if they can answer it, great. Next would be, are they acting against it? And if they can't answer it, there's an opportunity there, right? And really, that's really what that 30 days should look at is there an opportunity to be doing things better, so that it ultimately does impact and improve my guest experience, and ultimately continue to help your business get more predictable in terms of your guest spend and coming back. I mean, it's expensive enough to acquire your guests, so let's make sure you're keeping them.
Nice. So if someone's interested in Clutch, what should they do?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. You could contact us. Of course, our website is www.clutch.com. Feel free to request a demo. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to have a conversation as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this has been amazing. I've learned so much from you the last hour, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it today. Thank you, Patricia.